I hear you.
Because I think they were doing it ad hoc. That's what we saw. They were just doing it ad hoc because they did not embed it in their control and governance process, which is what needs to be done.
That is correct, Auditor General.
Oh boy. All right, thank you. Again, so your follow-up is to provide for us a report once you get the facts as to the 780 transactions that were not uploaded, what size those were, and why those were not uploaded.
Okay, Chairman.
All right. All right, I'll go into key finding 3, which must be the most egregious of them. So somebody have to explain this. The absence of procurement documentation. The University Hospital of the West Indies could not provide procurement documentation for 51 contracts. However, since then, 28 files valued at 269 million have been found, which means that we can find 22 and 1 is incomplete. So, and that the 22 that can be found is 246 million and 1 incomplete is 18 million. So again, just explain to us as a committee, when a procurement is completed, what is the process to put that document, whether it's physical storage, online on a server? Just explain that process to me. Because this, well, I'm starting with the acting CEO and you can delegate. This one to me is the worst one. That you just can't find documents. Even after the Auditor General has been in, you have found about half of them. And obviously you've been looking for the rest and you can't find them. So help us, Mr. Hosing.
The member asked, where were they? When I took up the position, I insisted that they must find them. And they were able to locate the 28. And then after submitting those 28, they found 1 more, make it 29. They have so far been unable to locate anymore. They were in storage in a story room, but it was never provided to the auditors. When they came, even after requesting it, they did not provide it to them. But I insisted that they should. I don't think there was, I wasn't there, so I can't tell you that it was resistance or what, member. It could have been, not lack of diligence and searching and insistence, but they were able to locate some. The search continues, but it is so far has not proven any further success other than the 29.
So what is the standard operating procedure? I love this term. For when a procurement is complete, where those documents should be stored, clearly for audit purposes, for both internal and your external auditor, you have to keep your documentation, where those documents should be held, etc. What is that procedure?
I'll ask Mr. Buckley just to share with the
Yes.
meeting. Yeah.
Turn on back your mic.
Yes, Chair. The standard operating procedure is that each document, procurement activity, or file is filed in a file folder and placed in a hard binder and then transferred to a storage area where it can be retrieved. Upon my return to the unit, upon my return to the unit, I realized that this practice wasn't being followed. Hence, the reason why these files could not be located. And
so where would those files have been?
Those files should have been in a storage area. My understanding is that that area was flooded at least 2 or 3 times based on heavy rainfall. That was my understanding.
Can you be more specific? was that what were the dates of? Because let me tell you, you know why this one is more serious? We don't know whether you're not even in a position to make an assessment. And I don't want to conclude that it is deliberate, because I don't know. But given everything that we have seen, you could infer that. But to say there were 3 cases of flooding, when were those 3 cases of flooding? Because it's the first time we're hearing that. I don't know if that was shared with the Auditor General's department. And if you are storing files in a place that flood out easy, you know, move it somewhere else, if that is the case. But help me on that one, because tell me when those flooding took place and whether those were reported to the board, to the internal audit committee, etc. Was there a request for removal to a different storage area? I need to know that.
And do they have basements?
Well, let me ask him. Go ahead. So the three flooding out. Tell me when those took place. No, he said there were 3 cases of flooding. No, but help us there.
Okay, so that was my understanding that the area was flooded.
When?
I didn't get the specific. I'm not aware of the specific. But
These-
while I was not there, understand that the area was flooded.
No, so all right. Is there anybody who can, because this is the first, this wasn't reported to the Auditor General when she did her review. So it's the first we're hearing this issue of flooding. So I would like, as part of your report, to tell us specifically when the flooding took place and whether when those incidents took place, whether management was informed, whether a corrective thing was put in place, whether flooding from the roof, the floor, whatever, to mitigate against that. We could never accept that 50% of documents valuing $280 million can be found because of flooding. Because of flooding. I mean, you haven't even asked the ones you have found yet to determine whether they're following proper procedure.
But if there was flooding, how come they found some?
Well, it help. Who can help us with that? Internal auditor? You can help us with that? Because, yes, some were found. 28 were found. So it must be from the same era of flood out, where you find the 28. So why can't the other 22 be found? Mr. Internal Auditor, help us here. We're, again, in conducting, you have to release your mic so I can turn on his. In conducting your internal, is that an issue which you identified and brought to the attention of the audit committee of the board or the CEO? The flood.
Thank you, Chair. Just for context.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just for context, the internal audit function had done 6 reviews of procurement section, and the issue of documentation not being found is institutionalized. It is systemic. We have done review of it, and on several occasions, we'd asked them to put in systems in place to mitigate against that. And it is in the internal audit reports, and since recently, they have done something about it in terms of the management has put something in place, and we have reviewed that.
What has management put in place?
They have put in, as the senior director had said, a filing cabinets, and
cabinet
and hard folders. We had looked at them just recently, Chair, right? But it has been institutionalized over a long period of time, and we have reviewed them and report them to the audit committee, and that is where it ends, Chair.
No, hold on. Help me again, because you are saying people put in place filing cabinet.
Yes, Chair.
Me have that in my yard, you know. Me have that on my yard. You can't tell me that the University Hospital at the West Indies that spend billions of taxpayers' money just put in place filing cabinet?
Yes, Chair. Yes,
No,
Chair.
man, that's
Filing
your thing,
cabinets and hard folders.
Cabinets and hard folders?
Yes, Chair.
So what existed before?
Right. So, Chair, those recent procurement activity, the board, which is the audit committee, had asked the internal audit.
But those are big money. And of the 521 here is 431. 83% is those 8.
Thank you, member. The details, I would have to put that together and submit to this committee at another time, but we do have the information.
All right.
But
Yes,
not with me now, but we can
really
provide,
like to get them.
provide with the details of it.
I wanted to just probe a little more. I know you may not have the specific data in front of you, but are these, the 8, are these maintenance providers in that deal with AC, elevator, things that may break down in a hospital that require immediate action? Are you in a position to say?
It says services,
Not-
work, goods. So
Yeah.
it may span.
Not all, and in fact, some were consulting services.
There you
Okay.
go. There you go.
So that
And through your chair, I did not get the name of the 2 consultants with the 186,000. Yeah.
for the strategic plan
Yes,
and
which
the
we post. Yeah. Who are those?
The one that was recently provided, it was William Pragmatic Limited. They are from a firm of consultants, I believe, from Canada.
From Canada.
and what about the
The
other one, the
one
strategic
before-
plan?
The one that wasn't accepted.
No, that's the one. The one first one provided a draft strategic plan that was rejected by the board. That one is strategic alignment. So they provided a report, but the board did not accept that strategic plan.
That's
The
a Canadian company as well, strategic alignment.
There.
Is that a Canadian company as well? Or?
No, I'm not sure of that. I think they are local, but I'm not sure. I can confirm. But what I do have is the second one, William Pragmatic. They're out of Canada. They provided a draft report, interim report, and there are several things that they require to complete. They say their work.
All right. So you will provide the 8 that
And
431
a breakdown of the 431.
the name of the 8, the values beside it, whether they were beneficiaries, the method of awarding for each, as well as the particular service or work or good.
That provided.
Yes,
Alright.
I have a team recording that. So if you don't see me writing, the team.
Yeah, we will follow up because
This
that's
is-
one of our follow-ups that we would need. Yeah.
Okay.
So the other final thing on this, there was a value of $681 million for consultants as well. Consultants for hiring consultants and other related types of services associated with consultants. I take it probably would not have those names can share or a breakdown of that, because these are in the context of 64% direct awarding, in the context of missing documents, in the context of flagrant procurement breaches. It would be good because, the country, with this issue, the country has been hearing, references to only one named entity and a lot of the stuff. So we want to, I know the AG department can tell us the names of all of these things. And we are going to another issue where we need to get our names. All the names are out there. So again, 681 million for consultants and procurement around that based on the statement coming out of the findings of the AG. We would be certainly myself would be very happy to get those.
The committee is requesting that from the University Hospital, that they provide a breakdown of the 600 million, who it was provided to, for what services, and the amount for each. Same thing with the 8 companies that got the 431 million. What services are provided and how much for each as well.
I will do my best to provide you with the detail. As you will appreciate, some of these things under investigation by the police and by customs, and so we'd want them to complete that to confirm certain things before we go on.
I know, but all we are asking for is we accept them in other entities doing work, but in cases where public funds are spent, the public has a right to know how those monies were spent. And that's all. That's all we are asking. Yeah, we are requesting that. Yeah, yeah. All right. I see member Miller, member Cuthbertson, and member Cousins. Oh, member Morrison. All right, member Miller, then member Morrison.
It is to the PS. The procurement committee, would you agree with me that the procurement department or committee operates in a very laissez-faire way? And the head of procurement has been there for, 10 years? But yet still we're seeing so many breaches, not using the GoJEP, files are not being stored. Doesn't that concern you that procedures are not being followed, way they operate? Doesn't that concern you?
Yes, it does concern me.
What has been done, having taken up the portfolio, what has been done to correct that? Because we hear that it is systematic. The head of procurement has been there 10 years. He mentioned that he was removed and brought back. Is it that he was doing such a great job while he was removed? Or is it that he was brought back for a particular reason?
I could not answer that question. I'm not involved in the day-to-day operations of the University Hospital of the West Indies. And they report to a board. The CEO reports to a board. So that those questions are best directed that way. But to answer your question, I'm not satisfied.
Well, probably the
Well, the
CEO is
question was
better
directed to me, so maybe the CEO can.
able to assist me.
Mr. Buckridge was reassigned in 2025, early 2025. He was returned to his position in February of 2026. You're asking why he was reassigned. I think they were hoping for him to be a part of that team to deal with digitization of records and so on. He was brought back in 2020 as a reassignment did not follow the correct HR procedure, and therefore we had to correct that because of that problem. It is in his return that we were able to find the 29 files, having him to lead search and to get that. So the Catherine Phipps committee, engaged by the board, is looking at all employees to determine where they are to be held accountable and what is recommendation. The committee is made up of lawyers, HR practitioners, very senior levels, and they are doing that. They are expected to provide the board with a report by June of this year. So in another 2 months, we are expecting the report, 2 months plus. We are expecting that report, and from there, if depending on what they say, we will take the necessary actions along with the police who are doing their investigation, and they are doing asked for statements, and they are planning to do interviews. We were told just yesterday.
I do hope that somebody is held accountable for this, because those gaps that we're seeing, it doesn't sit well with me, nor the public, who an entity such as UHWI should be operating at a particular standard. So I do hope that report doesn't go missing like all the other documents.
I can assure you, I'm a part of the board, and I can assure you that we are taking the engagement of a very well-known and very capable person as Catherine Phipps and the members of that committee an indication of the seriousness with which the board is taking this matter, but we want to follow the correct HR due process to ensure that we are doing it correctly and not get ourselves into any trouble at any other levels.
This question is for Mr. Buckridge. Buckridge. My apologies. Prior to your removal, were the documents kept in the same place when you returned? All your documentation, were they stored at the same location?
1 second, somebody has to release a mic so I can turn on his. Yes.
Okay. Let me just add some context to that, Chair. Files were being kept in filing cabinets, and when those filing cabinets were filled, they were transferred into a storage room that has shelves on them. So we have always been using filing cabinets. And then, so the most recent files are kept in filing cabinets. So based upon my return now, when the process was not being kept.
So between when you left in 2023, you left in 2025?
Yes, early 2025,
Yeah,
and returned in February 2026.
And returned 2026. So within that 1 year gap, that 1 year period, processes were not followed, you're saying?
Yes.
Very well.
All right, Member Morrison.
Thank you, Chair. Chairman, we are talking about 22 procurement files with contracts valued at over 246 million, not found, appears to have vanished. Chairman, earlier you, and I'm going to paraphrase, you said that you don't want to accuse anyone of being deliberate, but you're sorely tempted. When systems do not work, and when we are seeing that it is like, it's obvious, so why is this not working? When accountability is weak, I'm putting it to you, Chairman, that usually there is someone or entities that are benefiting by the parent function. Chairman, we will hear that a new person is in the post, maybe a new CEO, or we will hear that the practice has discontinued. And this Jumanji series of events, it is becoming even more bizarre and outlandish and outrageous with explanation. When we hold people accountable, what are the suite of action items that follow when we say this entity or these individuals are to be held accountable? 246 million. Where are the missing files? Maybe file 13? I don't know. But I want to call your attention to the brief, Chairman. It's not part 2 where we have note briefly that alarms me. It's not the part that says no documents were provided for 22 contracts. It's where it says we have not conducted an audit to determine the authenticity of the submitted documents. So I'm aligned with you, Chair, when you say we have to come back to this matter.
No, we have to. And that's why I had asked the Auditor General, but she indicated her plate is full. But we have to come back because we don't even know how bad the problem is at this point in time. But I must tell you, 6 years me I sit down in that chair. This is one of the worst. The worst. And I don't, as I said, I can't conclude corruption because I don't have enough evidence. But it smells bad. It stink. It stink. And understand, understand when our constituents go to university hospital or any hospital and them have to pay the fee and them call we as the MP for help, for pay the fee. And them people are listen to this, you know. And them people listen to this. And I say, when them go pay them tax, at this, them tax dollars I do, and them can't go hospital and get an MRI or CT scan. We will follow up. We will follow up. We will follow up. Because nothing can go so in a 2026. Document can't walk out of hospital. Fire, me not hear about fire. Me hear about flooding. I'm want to report on the flooding. But it cannot be so that you disappear 22 document can't find. Worth so much money? No, sir. Member Cuthbert Flynn and Member Cousins.
Thank you, Chairman. I have two questions. I wanted to go back to the beginning where I think it was mentioned that there are 8 to 10 members. I'm curious as to who are, as far as UHII, who are those board members? Who are they made up of? The personnel on the board. The composition of the board.
You need
Well,
the names of the individual?
No, not the name, but who are they comprised of? As far as the individuals, are there any medical doctors on the board? Are there just members of civil society? Who are the members? The composition.
Okay, so we do have some doctors on the chief medical officer, Madam DeSesa, is on the board. Also, the Senior Director of Clinical Services is on the board also. And we have in attendance others, medical personnel who are on the board.
Sorry, if I might help. Those other persons not appointed by the Minister, the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, University Hospital, University of the West Indies, the Chief Medical Officer of Jamaica, the
Talk closer to the mic. Pull the mic closer.
The Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, University of the West Indies, the Chief Medical Officer, who just left here a while ago, the Financial Secretary, the Bursar of the University of the West Indies.
From which minister?
We only have one Financial Secretary.
So it would be her
you want
appointee.
the medical people? Oh, okay. The chairman of the medical committee, University Hospital of the West Indies. And 4 members elected from time to time by the Council of the University of the West Indies, of whom not more than one shall be a registered medical practitioner. And the minister appoints 8 members, and the 8 members that the minister appoints consist of the following: 3 persons resident in Jamaica, one of whom shall be a registered medical practitioner engaged in private practice, 1 registered medical practitioner appointed on the nomination of Jamaica Medical Association, and 4 persons of whom one at least shall be a woman appearing to the minister to be interested in social welfare generally, or in the welfare and aftercare of patients attending the hospital.
Okay, thank you for that. Let me go back to the audit findings as well. It states here contractors engaging without formal contracts. Do we know for what amount that these contractors were engaged without a formal contract? And under what circumstance?
We don't have the information. What we do know is that some of them actually, based on the Auditor General's report, were actually engaged. And then after they have completed the work or near completion, the contracts were put in place. Signed contracts were put in place.
And do you know why that was? That a contract is not signed before the work began?
I am.
Or is that a practice that is done, or
it
is
should never- it should-
that
no.
a practice that's
That
done
is-
where
that is a clear
you
breach.
engage someone and you don't have them sign anything and they do the work and then you say, okay, what if?
That's a clear breach.
Yeah, because there
Clear
are many
breach
things that could
because-
really happen.
Yes, clear breach of the procurement guideline.
Variations could happen.
Well, the fact is also that you will have a situation where a person is engaged, and then after you would, I think the auditor pointed out, after is when you go to tender.
Well, the biggest risk to the government of
But
Jamaica
it should never happen. It's
is
a
that
breach.
you engage somebody, something go wrong with the contract,
But that's what I mean.
can't be completed.
completed.
You have nobody to hold accountable,
Right.
because you have no contract.
Mhm.
So if it works, the person could have done the thing incorrectly. They could have made an error. You have nobody to hold accountable.
And do we know how many? I also am curious. So approximately how many of these contractors were engaged without a contract? I think if you don't have that with you, we'd love to get that
yeah.
information as well, to say there were 100 contractors that were engaged without a formal contract. I would want to know that.
Yes,
And the
that-
circumstances.
If you don't have that, we would need that as part of the report. The breakdown of the individual contractors, the service that they are providing, and the amounts that were paid.
Well, we will be able to provide what we can find and the information that is available that fits into that category, because I'm going to say to you that there may be circumstances where this has happened, but the information that we have in front of us is showing, otherwise.
But can I ask, and the CEO, the acting CEO may not be able to answer because you just went there, but what circumstances would give rise to contracts being awarded verbally, work completed, and then only when payment is to be made, a contract is signed?
Mr. Chairman, under no circumstances at all whatsoever should this happen. Under no circumstances, even in case of emergencies, there are procedures that deal with that. Under no circumstances, sir, should that happen.
All right. Member Cousins?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. So let's focus on the 51 contracts valuing $521 million, for which, based on the disclaimer provided by the ministry, that they have not conducted an audit to determine the authenticity. That is very interesting. Of the documents that for the 22 contracts that were submitted. Chairman, earlier, the CEO that 28 contract documents were submitted. No, were submitted, and 29 found 28 submitted. But there's one saying that is incomplete document submitted. What does that mean? Does that mean that you did not submit that one that was incomplete, or you submitted all 29 to the Auditor General?
No, we presented 28 for them to review. And as they said, they have not really done a full thing to give a report, but there was one that was found subsequent to them coming and reviewing those. And that is the one. So it's not an incomplete, it is that the file was found after they had finished looking at the 28 when they came.
Oh, so you're saying that in looking at the response here, saying incomplete documentation submitted, you're not saying that the documentation for the 20 that is the additional one that was found after was incomplete. You're saying that you did not complete the submission?
It did not submit.
Oh,
for them to review.
Okay, so you have a complete file then?
We have a file.
Okay.
We have a file.
All right, so
and we actually asked our internal audit department to just review it to see, what is there. But in terms of a full audit work, I don't believe they have done anything fully. And also the Auditor General, I don't know. She has said that she has not done a full audit of it, so she's unable to, or her
These
team.
22 contracts that you provided the disclaimer for, saying that we have not conducted audit to determine the authenticity of submitted documents. No, for the 28, or rather 29. Did you ask your internal audit department to authenticate documents before you send them over to the Auditor General? Would that be a reasonable procedure to follow before you send them to the AG?
We did ask him to look at it, and he's here, so he could tell you what work exactly he did with respect to those 28.
Okay. Yeah, we'd love to hear.
Yes, sir, Mr. Internal Auditor. I do.
Thank you, Chair. We did look at the 28 documents that were presented to us, Chair, and we can say with certainty they are authentic in relation to those documents, Chair.
Authentic, and just so we're clear about what authentic means that
they are original documents.
They're original documents.
Yes, Chair.
Okay. It still doesn't negate the need for an audit by the Auditor General of those contracts.
Chairman, I would even go there, because if the internal auditor is saying one thing here, and we have a document with a response from the ministry saying something else, then I don't know why would we even.
Hold on, I think the Auditor General wants to provide some clarity here.
To clarify, you're reading from the prompt.
Yeah.
Yes, and that prompt, that's a comment made by the Auditor General to say that the documents have been submitted, but we have not had an opportunity to do a review to determine the authenticity of the documents.
Thank you, Madam AG. Because when I'm looking at it, it's very
no. This is the AG's prompt.
Yeah. All right. So, am I to understand that unless the Director of Procurement returned in early 2026, we would not have found these additional 28 documents?
I cannot answer that, member. What we did was when he was returned, it was at that point, which is March 1, February 2nd. As I said, I came in February. We looked at it and I said, look here, where is it? Where are the files? Go and find them. So as to whether they would have found them with or without him, I cannot say, but they were found.
Okay. And this procedure that was highlighted of filing cabinets being too full, so you have to move them to shelves in a room. That is totally unacceptable.
2 foot?
That's what was reported here earlier, that the filing cabinets, you have the procedure is when the filing cabinets are too full. You find a room with a shelf and put some files on them.
It's not a find a room, member. It is a procedure that they have where it is in the filing cabinet. When the filing cabinet is full, they are placed in shelves, a storeroom. And just to let you know that the problem with the flooding, we have fixed the roof and we have done some work to prevent the rush of water that was coming to the building. We have mitigated that. So we don't expect to have those
problems.
Since you have
been CEO, that has been done? Or before you came to the office of CEO?
It was since.
It was done prior to the CEO.
What was the date? What was the date of that repair of the documents of the building to prevent the flooding?
No, sorry. It was during Mr. Osin, because I remember I could not go in there because the flooding.
So
you couldn't access it?
I could not go into even my former office because
is it because of you were in another position?
Yes. So what had happened? The roof was leaking. So it was leaking in the filing area. It was also leaking in where my office was. So they had repaired it so I could go back in the office.
Oh, so you needed water boots and a raincoat.
Yeah. Rain was falling in there.
Rain was falling inside.
So we repaired it this
There are
year.
videos of it.
So the files were in your office at the time when the
Some
rain fell.
files were in my office. At the
Oh, that's
time.
why we can't find the additional 28.
You know,
Some files were in my office. They were used in my office as a store,
Oh, to store the files. So it mean the file them wet up then, and them just need to dry out.
I don't know, sir.
Well, that's the point I'm asking. So if rain was falling inside the building, the file them should have did it. Them just wet and need to dry. So is a 2-foot rod take them out of the building?
So these 28 files you found, where did you find them exactly?
They were
29 no, but where did you
Yes.
find it
Found-
first and then the 28?
Some were found in filing cabinets, and some were found in the area where the archives files. So
that's why they run out, because they were in filing cabinets. So the others you were saying were wet, that's why you can't find them.
I can't speak to that. sir.
I see. Chairman, I think
Okay.
I yield, because we have to get back to this issue
But
again.
we,
because
Mr. Chair,
this is-
we did fix the roof, as I said, this year.
We won't have that again,
We-
but
we
then
should
we
not.
should
We
be
should not. We should
we
not.
should be on the Go Gem portal, so
Everything
you
as of
upload
March
them
1.
electronically.
As of March 1, everything. Before that, more than those above million for a few months. But as of March 1, we have made it very clear, and we are holding persons accountable if they don't. And as I said, it is 100%. It is not anything like below 1.5 that is not on. Everything, the mandate is everything. And the problems that are flooding should not reoccur, should not, because we have done things to mitigate that by the roof and by putting in proper guttering to channel water in another area.
Thank you, Chair. I am a little bit baffled because I just want to kind of go back to the board members, I guess, because I hear esteemed names being called and positions, esteemed positions. How can you clarify how the board's been was selected, and were the board aware, I mean, of most of the things that we're hearing, or all the things that we're hearing?
I can't say that they were or they weren't. What I do know is that they ought to have monthly board meetings as a part of good governance. There is an audit committee of most boards, and the audit committees from the organizations that I've headed as CEO would report to the board on a monthly or a quarterly basis. So if that was being done at the University Hospital of the West Indies, then obviously if the audit reports, because I've spoken to the auditor, the audit manager there, I've had many discussions with him. I've seen his reports. I sent them to me, and if these were reported to the board, then the board ought to have been concerned. That's all I'm prepared to say.
All right, members, I'm moving to key finding number 4, the misuse of the tax exempt status. I have a couple of questions on this. Could the university indicate how long this practice has existed, where the university has used its tax exempt status to facilitate the importation of goods for private companies? That's the first question.
Mr. Chairman, we are only aware of the ones highlighted by the Auditor General and the dates as stated. I know that the Jamaica Customs is doing their investigation, because in one of the instances highlighted by the Auditor General, the payments or the processing was not done by finance or the procurement department or anyone internally.
Yes. I'm about to ask the follow-up because Mrs. Copperfield looked at me and was about to say what can go so. So can you elaborate on that?
Well, the one that did not come through the process, actually, we have gotten a report from customs as the one of the four that the Auditor General highlighted. So we have gotten that report. They have stated just on Friday that the amount of duty that should have been paid, and I think the Auditor General also did an estimate or something, is approximately $10 million. But there is also penalties, and the penalties range from 500,000 at a minimum to 3 times the CIF value, and the CIF value is approximately 4 million. So it would be like 120 plus the 10, which is about 130 million would be the maximum that would be charged to us.
Can you state what I'm trying to understand? There was obviously a practice to facilitate some companies who seem to have had a relationship with the university, whether they were providing goods or services. At best, could say maybe it is a informal arrangement, right? My question is, what would have necessitated the university using its tax exempt status for these companies?
Mr. Chairman, I was not there, as you know.
I know. Yes.
I have spoken to different team members. They are not aware as to why, and therefore I am unable to say the reason why it was done. Because in as I said, in at least one case, they had no record. In others, as the Auditor General has highlighted, that the hospital paid for like a broker fee and other fees, but in one in particular, nothing was paid for, or it didn't go through even any process at all. There's no record really of it. And it's not our goods. Based on the customs declaration, goods did not belong to the hospital and were not a part of the hospital assets. In more than one, you do have that happening in terms of not being ours. Ownership of is not.
You're
ours.
saying in more than one case that is the case?
Ownership is not ours. In fact, in none of the cases, even though in the case where we the crockery, we purchased it from the individual after the importation, and in the case of the garbage bins, we purchased those. But the other two cases, the asset was not purchased by us, even from a third part, a person who would have brought them in.
So in two cases, these were providers providing services to the university. The university facilitated using the tax exempt status to bring these things in, and then the university paid the same provider for the goods.
Yes.
So, all right.
Because we did not purchase the item, the item was not paid for overseas by the university.
So why, okay, so
yes, Chair.
So in a case like that, why wouldn't the university simply bring in the things on its own behalf?
I'm unable to say, Chair, why the hospital chose this route and not purchase the item themselves. I'm unable to say why. And none of the officers that are there were able to explain to me why.
Member Brown?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So the first question I want to ask on this particular issue as it relates to the misuse of the tax exempt status, the Auditor General in her findings said companies. Can you, because I think it is in your purview to name, and she mentioned private company 1, private company 2, private company 3, private company 4. Can you tell the committee, and that's my first question, what are the names of private company 1, private company 2, private company 3, private company 4?
I know that the Auditor General redacted the names.
I'm not directing the question to the Auditor General. I'm directing the question to you.
I'm answering,
Yes.
answering, member. And we know that the matter is under
The
investigation.
matter is under investigation for one company, and I'm going to get to that. So
No,
I'm asking.
it's under investigation for all, but only
But I
one.
just, sir,
But in one case, and I
see, I just want to hear the names of the companies.
I can give you the name of
Yes.
the one that the work has been completed by customs, and they have actually given us the report with the one name.
No, I don't think that is acceptable because I don't know. Did you issue the name? Because the name came out there before the customs report, as far as I know. So I'm asking the university hospital, through you as a CEO, to provide the names. This has nothing to do with the investigation.
Do you know the names? Do you know the
Do you know the names of the four companies?
Do you know the
I will seek guidance on
Yes or no?
releasing all the names, member, but I can share the name of the one that we have gotten the report of.
I'm not asking you for the name of the one, but because why is there secrecy around naming all the four? And how come the country heard of this one long before customs and things would have gotten the information from the university hospital? So I'm just asking you here, what are the names? This is my question.
Do you know the names? Do you know the names?
Can you repeat that, member?
Do you know the names?
No, I am no.
Yes or no?
Now, the question is the name of the four companies that benefited from the tax
From the
exempt
tax exempt.
status.
I know that the Integrity Commission has the file. The names, as would have been seen by the Auditor General, were seen by us also. But in terms of the completion of the investigation, one has
So
been completed.
are the investigations around the named company, which that name was in the public space for months? Were those
We
companies?
didn't release any names, We have not released any names even to this point.
Well, you're saying you know of one, and you can name one for investigations
based
complete.
on the report from the customs which I have here, I can state what customs have stated as being the one company.
What has customs stated without naming the company? What is the summary of the findings of customs' investigation in relation to that entity?
No, but I think, Chairman, before we go there, though, so the university is unable to name the four entities that have all benefited from the misuse as defined by the Auditor General's findings. Misuse of the tax exempt status. You can't name, you refuse to name. Because I don't think the response about Integrity Commission prevents you from naming who those entities are.
Okay, let me just answer the chairman's question and I'll come to you. I'm just making sure I get the correct name of the names. All right, I'll get in that. But the chairman asked, what did they report from customs state, right? Third-party verification from the name company with the assistance of the CEO of that company. That one, the goods were imported and these are the dialysis machines. One, the goods were imported by the company, the goods were paid for by the company, the value of the goods was verified by way of payment records received from the company, custody of the goods was verified to be that of the company, and the address, and that it was not, and the company confirmed that the goods were in fact imported for that company by the university. The name of the companies are Supreme Laundry Services, Willman's Sales.
What's that?
Willman's Sale, like Willman, WILLMAN, Sales, SALES. Scientific Medical Services, and Jack Den Limited.
Thank you very much, CEO. Chairman, I want to proceed now so what is clear is that the university hospital have been, whether or not this is to utilize my friend's good phrase earlier, Ron, whether this is institutionalized, the CEO can't say whether the use of the tax exemption status is an institutionalized way of how the UE has been operating. But what is clear is that it is more than one company as named. Secondly, the responding to the Auditor General's finding, your letter, I believe both the Permanent Secretary's letter as well as your response was that the documents have been submitted to both the Jamaica Customs Agency as well as the just Jamaica Constabulary Force. Have all 4 instances, those 4 named companies, were those documents submitted for all 4?
We have given them copies of the document for all 4.
For all 4. Okay. All right.
Based on what we have, as I said, there are instances where we would not have the documents because it was done outside of the hospital.
All right. So you're saying that you have now received the investigations that customs have been undertaking, having received the 4 matters raised here by the Auditor General for the 4 companies. You have submitted all 4, but you have only received their reports on 1.
On 1.
So
the
country,
they have said that they will actually provide the penalties for that one, because what we have done, they have completed their assessment and determined that there was a 10 million due should have been paid for that one.
Yes.
And that they will provide us with the penalties, if any. Well, they said there's a minimum of 500, so there will be a penalty. They will provide that to us in short order, and the other reports will be provided to us in short order also.
Okay, so we will await that.
Yeah, as we say. So again, as the follow-up, the committee would need, once you have been given that information by customs, the committee would like a report on what customs has found in terms of its investigation into all 4 and whatever remedies they have recommended for those companies to deal with it, the specific breaches.
Okay, just to be clear, Chair, Customs has made it very clear to us that they have nothing to do with those companies. We are the ones, the hospital is the one who they are holding accountable to pay all charges and fines. As to where we will get the money from, it is.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, these companies didn't, it's your tax
Your
exemption
tax
that was
exemption
utilized.
status,
It is a hospital name that is on the importation documents, and therefore they are holding the importer as being accountable.
So that is why we want to understand, and that's why I probably have to come back, because it is not one company, it is 4. And this is based on the findings from the AG, who, as she said, it's a minute subset or sample that was taken of the operators of the UE. So we don't know if, as my friend said, this is institutionalized or if it is systemic. So that is why, Chair, we have to come back to see. So this is just probably the tip of the iceberg. But I proceed. In terms of deep diving a little bit, and I know you sir, are here only since January. I'm looking at page 10 of the actual Auditor General 72-page report. And there are a couple of things that I want clarity on. And this is as it relates to private company 3. And it is also related to private company 4, because I see permeating through this misuse of the tax exempt. So I want to understand a buyback, right? There is this buying back. So you give them the tax exempt, and then they went and procured or brought the stuff in, and then we are buying it back. Well, not we, the University Hospital is buying it back, sometimes tenfold. So, for example, waste bins for private company, 4. It says here was valued at 6.6 million. The company saved 3 million by virtue of the tax exemption. So they paid roughly 3.6. But then the hospital bought back that from private company for 11 million. So I just want to understand. I want to understand why, as the chairman would have asked earlier, why didn't you just utilize your tax exemption in the first instance to buy the thing? And why is this buyback about? There's also, I think, private company 3, cups and dishes, imported for 1.4 million, and then the will buy it back again for 6.9. So the country has heard about, and there's been glorification and publication around one entity when there are 4 companies, when it's possible it has been institutionalized and the utilization of the tax exemption is a conventional practice between you and its partners. But this buyback, what it is about and who is benefiting, because it's 1.4 and then right back at 6.9. So this company, private company 4, has made 3 or 4 times profit. Private company 3 has made 10-fold profit. So I just want clarity on that, CEO, because it looks really bad, but perhaps there is some explanation to it that some of us can't really understand.
Based on what you have shared, member, it would have, based on what you have said and what the Auditor General has stated, it is extremely bad. However, I cannot tell you why it was done.
Is there anybody else here who could tell us why?
I can tell you none of the senior leadership here or even in the hospital have been able to share or to say why it was just done.
Why are we buying back? Who is making money? What is this? And who? Yes.
Can we have a time limit?
I mean, we're not here for the entire member. Now, I'm asking all my pertinent questions, Member Cuthbert. No,
it's not critical. Member Cuthbert, we do have Parliament sitting at 2.
That's right.
These issues have to be fully ventilated. And I'll give everybody an opportunity to talk. Everybody.
Yeah, so there's nobody who can help us with this buyback to understand the rationale behind the buyback and who are the beneficiaries.
The persons may purchase items and then sell the hospital and have their markup. And therefore, I don't know.
Who authorized these buybacks, though? You have no knowledge of who is within the university hospital who would have been authorizing these buybacks.
The matter, as I said, Chair, I have to be very careful because, as I said, this is before the police and also before customs and integrity commission. And Mr. Chair, I don't want to say reasons. I would prefer them with their investigative skills to do the assessment and make the determination through the due process, whether it be court or otherwise.
Well, first I want to welcome, there are 49 students from Dunrobin Primary. Welcome to the Parliament of Jamaica. This is the Public Accounts Committee meeting. We are not going to have a sitting of the full Parliament, but you're welcome to continue to watch and observe in silence the proceedings of this committee. This committee is set up to deal with reports from our Auditor General, and our Auditor General is seated to my left, Mrs. Pamela Monroe Ellis, and we are examining an audit report done on the University Hospital of the West Indies. All right? Okay. So there's a queue, Frank, and you have some of your colleagues impatiently waiting, like Mrs. Cuthbert Finn. Well, if somebody will release their mic to put you on, Frank.
You want to ask a question? You want a follow-up?
Just a follow-up in relation to the the cost, the buyback. Can the Auditor General help us in terms of what you think, if you had done any check in relation to market value for those buyback? The market value for the items that were.
Somebody have to release the mic so I can turn on the AG's mic.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. No, we did not do a check of market value. We spoke specifically to the CIF value, and the focus was really on the practice.
You have to use, why you turn off the
Yes.
mic? I think the concern members have is that having used the university hospital's tax exempt status improperly, the same company who benefited from that tax exemption turns around and sells back to the university at 3 or 4 times this, 10 times? 10 times the CIF value. So it is clear to us that this was a deliberate scheme to provide profit, undue profit for a particular entity. There's no other way to explain it than that. Where in this scenario, the university could have just directly bought the stuff for itself and brought it in.
But Chair, who approved it? That's the question.
So yeah, the CEO, again, we know you are new and acting, but would this use of the tax exempt status be something approved by the CEO at the time, the board? Where in the chain of authority would this have been done?
The authentication of the approval is something that is on investigation. The files have been sequestered, and therefore, Mr. Chair, in terms of ensuring that the accurate information is provided to you, I would want to wait to see the result of that investigation to make a statement as to who really approved, because that is being questioned.
It is being questioned who actually approved it.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not so sure that there is a question as to who approved. I have seen documentation to show the signature of one who would have that authority to approve.
And that was the case in all 4?
Yes.
Okay.
No. In one case, I think at least one case, the person who signed the document had no such jurisdiction. In fact, he would have been separated from the university, I believe, some 2 years before that document was signed.
So are you suggesting then that that could have been forgery of that person's signature?
I would say, Mr. Chairman, that the signature appears to be that of the person who had left, who had the previous CEO, on one of the 2 documents. So there are 2 documents that would have been signed by the head of the entity. And one bear the signature of the former head, and one bear the signature, or appears to bear the signature of the current head. The authentication of those signatures is something that the police would have to do and determine whether, in fact, yes, this is the signature of the person. I'm not capable. I've never gotten any training in that area.
All right.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to kind of delve a little bit deeper in that. Can you name the company or companies that, when you mentioned about this particular document that was signed by someone who apparently had left the company, that was no longer the CEO? Can you name the company or the companies for those particular documents?
I know I have the document for one of those companies.
And which company is that?
The name of the company and that item is the same one related to the dialysis machines.
And which company is that?
That's Jack then.
That's Jack then. Is there a similarity? I want to find out.
There are two instances.
There are two instances where the signature appears and the person who supposedly had signed that.
One of the two signatures.
One of the two signatures, the person was no longer.
Yes. Appears to be the person who no longer works there.
So it was possibly forged. We don't know.
I don't know. That is why I've said that alleged. And I don't know. I can't. The police will have to determine that. Yes.
Are the four companies, do they have anything to do with the University of the West Indies Hospital? We know that Jack then provides janitorial services to the University of the West Indies. Are the other companies that were named in this, the other three companies, do they have any direct employment contract with the University of the West Indies?
Only one, Supreme Laundry.
And
we have done business with Scientific Medical because we buy things from them, and Wilman Sales also.
And let me ask the question. We went to, this is, important to me because I do understand that a number of Jamaicans die each year because they cannot get on a public dialysis machine. I've paid for a number of my constituents to go privately from West Rural St. Andrew to receive dialysis treatment because diabetes is a major non-communicable disease in the country. So when I hear that a company is possibly getting a buyback and making money from these dialysis machines, are they, since they were bought back?
No, sorry. I can correct you. Those.
No buyback.
No.
So wait, you guys jump on this one, Farsi? Well, I'm trying to find out. So those dialysis machines are where? Are they with the university or are they at the company, Jack then?
As I shared by the customs said that the company stated that they were purchased by them and they are in their possession. We don't have them at the hospital. You don't have them on? No, absolutely. They never came to the hospital based on our record.
We heard of furniture. Does that have anything to do with the university and purchase?
No, the furniture. It was dialysis machine and furniture.
So it was dialysis machine and furniture.
Those furniture did not come to the hospital. And based on the customs declaration, based on the customs finding.
That was also not, you were not in possession of that either.
No. And they have given us the invoice with a list of items also here.
Okay.
Just for clarity, the furniture, based on your report from customs, did they benefit from a tax exempt status?
Yes, it's the dialysis. I just said dialysis because that's maybe the largest of the set, but there are signs, cash cart, wheelchair, scale, gloves, shelves. I mean, just various items are on the list. Several items. And that is where the CIF value, the total of that invoice.
What benefit, if any, did the UHWI benefit from these dialysis machine? Is there an arrangement?
None that I'm aware of. And I've not seen or heard, and no member of the team have said of any stated anything like that happening. Nothing on record to show any benefit whatsoever.
So patients don't get any kind of benefits when they go to this place, reduced cost for dialysis
I'm not aware of that. I don't know of that. I've never asked any patient to go there from the hospital. I don't know of the hospital sending any patient there.
What is procurement role in this buyback arrangement, buying back? What role does the procurement unit department play in the buyback arrangement between UHWI and these entities?
The procurement, Mr. Buckridge, can you just answer that? What role does the hospital play, the procurement department play in the importation of the garbage bins and the crockery?
And the buyback arrangement.
Yeah, those are the two instances.
Sorry,
somebody has
to release the mic so I can.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes.
The buyback arrangement is self-strange.
I would say I don't want to use the word buyback. It is that we paid for the items after they were imported using our tax exempt status.
I know, but it's the same thing we're saying.
I know, but I wouldn't want to use the. I'm not sure.
You don't want to use the terms.
Purchase. Yes.
But what? All right. Your answer the question. Can I have a follow up? So answer the question first.
I know, for one instance, the procurement unit had received a purchase requisition along with a justification letter from the head of entity to procure the bins, was to procure the bins. So we got all documentation that we are to use the direct contracting or single source procurement methodology, justification and everything to procure this item.
What was the justification in this case? Is it a specialized bin?
Looking at it, I would not say it's a specialized bin.
Okay. So that's why we asked the justification, because the question I was going to ask, in all of these are direct, the two, what we call buyback or direct contracting methods. And I wanted to find out what was the justification for the direct contracting. And secondly, is it the practice? Has the university in the past bought these things for themselves directly, or is it always a situation where they're procured through a third party?
From my experience, we have always procured them through a third party.
And from your experience, has there been a case where we know of before, for this particular case, where the tax exempt status has been used in the past to facilitate this type of procurement?
Well, I can't speak to the tax exemption aspect of it, because the procurement unit does not sign declaration or even C84. We're not in that process.
In doing the procurement, would you have an internal estimate based on your market survey as to what these things should cost?
Yes, we will get an internal estimate from the persons who are sending requests to us.
You would get an internal
we'll get an estimated cost, because if you are sending a purchase requisition to buy a particular item, you normally will send an estimated cost based on your market research and so forth.
From the unit within the hospital?
Yes.
Okay. And in this case, the age has indicated that one of these ended up being 10 times the CIF value. So my question would be, what would the internal estimate have said for the value of these bins? I assume these are bins that you put like needles and those things in, not garbage bins, all right? Medical waste.
Medical waste.
Okay, so medical waste is something that is procured, right? So the question is, would you have an internal estimate as to what that should cost? And how would that match against paying 10 times the CIF value for it?
Well, we in procurement, we wouldn't be aware of what the CIF value is. What we do, if we receive an internal estimate from the custodian.
You don't question it? You don't check?
No, let me tell you how the internal estimate plays a role in the procurement process. The internal estimate, and I can go far back to the budget, because once the budget is prepared, you would know, because you would have done your market research. You would have know what it is that if you want to procure a bottle, you would have an idea of what the bottle would cost to put in your budget. So that is where the internal estimate would come from. So once the request is received, the department will get an internal estimate, and once we go out and do the procurement, that whatever comes back, we will match it against what the internal estimate is to see if it is in line with the internal estimate. And if it is too high or too low, then we will ask the department to revisit their internal estimate if it is too high, or we will ensure that what the bidders are bidding, that they are bidding on apples for apples and not apples versus pear. So we'll do that type of comparison.
You know, there's a great coincidence that the internal estimate on at least 2 occasions is exactly what the bidder bid. Just seemed to be a great coincidence. Which is why direct contracting is so susceptible to corruption. I could just call it plain and straight. Where the internal estimate come from? The person who providing the service? Where it come from?
Mr. Chair.
You going to tell me in at least 2 occasions, the provider's bid is the exact number of the internal estimate?
Can I just... Can I...
Dollars and cents.
Is
not even round up. Not even round down. Dollars and cents exactly, Frank.
Mr. Chairman, an internal estimate can also be determined by the department requesting it, where you have a sole importer, the sole dealer for a particular drug or something into the island, and they are the only one authorized to sell that item in the country.
In this case, these people are the only people? I'm not saying
in this case, I'm saying that it is possible for you to have the same exact thing and it is a sole source because they are the only one authorized to provide that particular drug.
The crockery
No, I'm not saying in the case of crockery. No, not at all. Not at all. There wouldn't be
just a follow-up.
Exclusive dealership wouldn't be.
Just a follow-up. Just curious. Why is it the UHWI wouldn't do direct purchasing of something like bins and crockery and cups and dishes? Is there a rationale behind not procuring it directly? Is there a rationale? Just curious.
We don't know why those decisions were taken. We only see that they were, but we don't know why they took them.
But procurement should know.
They were?
But wouldn't it?
Yes, they are in possession of the crockery.
But wouldn't a reason be given to procurement? Why is it that they are purchasing them from a third party instead of direct sourcing from UHWI? What is there has to be a rationale.
Well, the thing is, as I said, I don't know. I mean, items can be purchased because that is not where we focus our specialization in terms of certain goods and services that are provided. So we will purchase them. As to specific ones where you say, you want this particular item and where it is overseas, and you could, as to why they chose to have someone else import and then we buy from them, I don't know. I am not aware. And none of the senior members of staff are able to explain that me.
It boggles my mind as if you get an internal estimate and it is provided to procurement, then from a procurement committee standpoint, I have sat on procurement committees, and from a procurement committee standpoint, I'm going to question why not purchase this directly instead of giving somebody an exempt status and then buying it back. I think that is just waste of money, breakdown of procedures, lack of accountability. Somebody's benefiting, and we know who. We need to know who benefited from this breakdown. It is obvious. Mr. Chair, we need to know. The country needs to know. Somebody has benefited.
Yeah, I'm hoping that from the police investigation and that of the Integrity Commission and that of Customs, the country will be made aware of where the breakdown, where, if any, took place.
Thank you. And somebody must be held accountable.
That is where Catherine Pibb's committee appointed by the board will be looking at.
All right, somebody, you want to just use currency as mic? Yeah.
Just a quick follow-up. I just wanted to have an idea as to how the tax exemption is utilized. How is it normally used within the entity? How does it work?
The hospital is allowed to import items
on its own.
On its duty-free, on its own. That is what it is supposed to. It's supposed to be used in bringing in item for the sole purpose of use by the hospital. And that is where the declarations and so on would come into play. And if it is not, then that is where the breach is, and the customs actually went through that with me to say, this is a breach. Why there's a breach? Because we have confirmed that the items were not, and under the tax exempt status, it is supposed to be the sole use of the hospital for the sole use of the hospital, and they were not.
Member Morrison, then Member Cousins.
Thank you, Chair. And Member Hamilton, that question is an excellent precursor to where I'm going now. We're talking about the university hospital misusing the tax exemption status. And in the case here, what are we looking at, Chairman? 4 companies? 4 companies on the radar here. And I just want, for persons in constituencies, maybe such as mine, who don't quite understand what is happening here. A simple breakdown: you have a company that can bring in, for my farming constituency, I would say tools, machete, hoe, fork. They can bring that into the country. What is it? With tax exemption. But there are other entities who sell the same thing or who use the same equipment. So then, that entity allows who has the tax exemption, who can bring in the machete, hoe, fork, whatever it is, free, then no tax. They allow other companies who don't have that exemption, who are obligated to pay the government tax, they allow them to bring it in. But this is where it gets bad. And this is in the case of 3 entities now, based on the information that we are gathering. Not only do they bring them in, they turn around and buy back the machete, buy back the hoe from the same entities who they allowed to benefit under the tax exemption, buy it back, and in some instances for 3 times the amount. Chair, my question is, can the PAC call on persons to answer even if after they have left the substantive post? Can the PAC summon persons to appear even after? Right? And I think it may have been Member Warmington, I don't know who, was saying that something maybe should be worked, maybe in the standing order constitution, where persons don't even have the option to say whether or not they want to attend, but they are made to appear to answer the question. Because in this case, With the new CEO, I think that I won't say out of his depth, but we would certainly have benefited from individuals who were at the helm and who can answer these questions. But Chair, in the interim, I want us to consider whether or not persons who have left entities, department, critical position with a trail of serious breaches, should we now consider whether or not these persons should be engaged in prominent, critical government posts until, at the very least, the investigations have been completed? Thanks, Chair.
Well, to answer your first question, I would need to seek advice as this committee can do so. We respond to reports from the Auditor General. The accountable officer in this case is always the permanent secretary. We have the acting CEO. We know the individuals who would have done it at the time are no longer with the entity. But there are investigations which are ongoing, which frankly, whether they are at the entity or not, sanctions can be imposed on those individuals. Some of these matters are Integrity Commission, but some of them are Customs plus JCF. So that would not preclude whether somebody still works within the public sector. But I share your grief at what we're dealing with, because the same tax that we needed to collect is the same money we're paying to buy back the thing from the same people that we give a break to. It's bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. And what we don't know is how bad it is. We only know about 4. We don't know how far back it goes. We don't know how many companies have benefited from it. And the reason it existed, a hospital is a non-profit institution. And so it existed so the hospital could bring in things for the benefit of the hospital, but certainly not to bring it in for the benefit of a private supplier who marks it up 10 times and sell it back to the hospital. That is the flagrant abuse of it. Member Cousins.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is to the CEO or the PS. I don't know if I can answer. It's 2 questions. First one is that, let's for argument's sake say I want to purchase, so you want to purchase some bins now or some plates and crockery. What is the process now that entails? Walk me through the various phases.
Okay, so the need would have been identified, and then we will have to look at in terms of priorities, because of the limited resources we have, to determine what actually will take place, which one will be purchased. So if we say yes, we're going to purchase the bins, then what will happen is that they will do the necessary requirement, send that to determine, for instance, what is the estimated cost of those items, and send it to procurement. Procurement now must, regardless of the amount we have implemented, must provide or make an attempt to obtain 3 quotes, regardless of the value. So we have now moved away just from single sourcing, unless it is like they can say to me that this is exclusive dealership. They are required to get at least 3 or request on GoJet to try and get persons to quote.
Okay.
Those quotes will come in, and we will then assess them and make the necessary awarding, whether it goes first through the procurement committee or it comes straight to me.
All right, so thank you very much. So let's go back to the unit now that deals with the in-house estimate. When that unit is doing their estimate, they would need to be made aware then that these items would come in duty-free, tax exempted. Because if they provide you or the procurement department with an estimate that does not take into account the fact that the hospital is going to bring these in through a third party, duty-free, then that means that the estimate that the procurement department would receive would be erroneous.
Well, they would not be aware. They wouldn't be aware that this is what will happen to the person who is awarded. So that is not, as I said, this is a
But
clear breach
what I'm
of
getting
the.
at, Chair, the CEO, is that look at it from this point of view. Remember, the company is bringing in the item for CIF value of $1, duty free, selling it back for $6, right? If your in-house estimate to the procurement department is $5 or $6, not telling them that, by the way, they're not going to pay any duty. So take that into account when you're doing an estimate. It simply means that the taxpayers of Jamaica would have been cheated because someone deliberately held back that information from the procurement department or from the unit that is generating the estimate, because the estimate cannot be generated in a vacuum.
Well,
You agree with me on that?
No, Mr. I want to
vacuum.
make sure that there is a clear understanding. One is that the unit requesting the bins would have gotten an estimate from whoever for $10 for the bin. They would not know that that $10 is based on us, the Universal Hospital, assisting the person with bringing in the items duty free or not. They only know that this is the price the person is quoting. The procurement department would then go ahead and process, because they too wouldn't know. Because based on, as I said, this thing is under investigation, but I'm telling you what it's supposed to be. They are not, because there is no such thing as the use of our tax exemption status. It should never be used by anyone in those manners. Never, ever. It's just not permitted, and it is not. It is a breach, a clear breach of guidelines.
Yes, CEO, I hear you, and I accept what you say, and I understand that this thing existed before you came into your substantive role, and that you have taken steps to address it. But the point I'm trying to make is that, obviously, Chairman, there's some collusion taking place between those who are doing the estimates, right? Or some misleading taking place, because you're not telling them who is doing the estimate, that this person is going to get a tax exemption. So somebody benefits somewhere down the line, outside of the company and whomever doing the estimate, or the procurement department, or probably somebody in that department that is doing the estimate. But something not right, it don't smell good, look good.
Remember, I understand the basis for your rationale. However, I would want to leave it to the proper investigative trained bodies to do their work and then make that determination.
Members, I'm going to recommend that we stop at key finding number 4, because we are 4 hours in. Some people are signaling me that we haven't provided lunch. We would like to at least watch the game at 4 o'clock, but we'll have to come back. Yeah, man, Jamaica qualifying for the World Cup, and we're going to beat DR Congo. But we're going to have to come back here, not next Monday, but not next Tuesday, not the Tuesday after the Easter break, but the following Tuesday in 2 weeks' time, because we can't complete this today. All right? So, Member Coupler, I'll take your final question, and then we break for today, and we come back in 2 weeks, and we pick up from key finding number 5, and then we go through the rest of the items. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman, for that. I just want to know, when things are bought, like cups and saucers or whatever it is that's bought, bins, dialysis machine, is there nothing in place, accountability at UHII to say these things, then we receive them? Is there no accountability measure if money spent and taxpayers' money is really wasted, as far as I'm concerned? Where accountability process, and going forward, what is now going to be put in place to make sure that this doesn't happen? Also, the certificate, how did they get hold of UHII's tax exempt certificate? How?
Okay, so there are a couple of questions you're asking right there in one. I said one. Okay, so let's leave with the last one first. The reality is that a document that Customs shared with us allegedly bears the signature of the CEO of the hospital, the previous and the current. In one case, it's the previous, and in one case, as I said, there are two documents that have to be signed by the head of entity. In one case, it was the previous CEO, and in the other case, it was the current CEO. Now, in terms of, so it is that on that basis why Customs would have treated it as a duty-free item coming in. Yes. In terms of the hospital obtaining or receiving the items and accounting for it, in the case where the item is purchased and all the processes related to the importation takes place outside of the knowledge of the finance department or the procurement department, those items would not have come through the channels, so that the hospital would not be aware of these items being imported, which is what the customs finding identified in the one that they have done. In the other instances, the procurement department would have sent in, they would have received the estimate, would have received the thing to purchase the item from this particular person, but based on our determination, the procurement department was not aware of any duty-free benefit that those importers would have benefited, or the person selling us would have benefited from. The company importing the item obviously would know that they're bringing it in, under what circumstances they're bringing it in.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This is longer than we normally go, but we're going to come back in 2 weeks' time to complete this. There are also some matters related to the Ministry of Health proper that we have to go through. But it's been I'm trying to find the right term. Eye-opener, maybe mild, but disappointing that in 2026 that the issues that have arisen here are arising. And as we recognize, this is just an audit. It doesn't speak to the entire operations of this entity, but it raises concerns about how many other rogue entities within the public sector could be operating this way. And there's no other way I can put it but rogue, because these things are unbelievable in terms of what has happened here. So can I have a motion for adjournment by Morrison, seconded by Cuthbert Finn? Have a very good Easter, everybody, and we come back in 2 weeks' time.
Join the conversation focusing on Jamaica's development. Tune in to the post-cabinet press briefings, Wednesday live at 8 a.m. with a rebroadcast at 9 p.m. right here on PBCJ, the People's Station.
Public sector transformation is national policy. Tune in to PBCJ for the 4-part docuseries Building a Better Public Sector, starting Sunday, March 8th at 1 p.m. with a rebroadcast on Mondays at 9 p.m. Presented by the Transformation Implementation Unit.